Hello, math fans and family. This is my first, hopefully, of many videos where I talk about children's games. This is less of a children's game. I think it's very popular worldwide, but just going to give a little intro and primer to Cribbage before I launch into the mathematical project that I've thought about a little bit and worked on with my son. Here's a cribbage board if you've never played. It's a rummy game. There's lots of videos you can watch online about it. I feel like it was invented by somebody who was drunk with their friends who wanted to make a game last a long time, or have a lot of different facets to it, because there's a part where you get cards. Everyone gets 6. If you're playing 2 people, everybody gets 6. The 2 people get 6 cards. They discard 2 into this thing called the crib. And that it alternates which person that goes to. So sometimes you're trying to give it bad cards, and the other times you're trying to give it good cards, whatever those might be. And then you play a little round where you try to get to 31 without going over. That's the pegging round. And the key ways you get points are pairs, runs, and 15s. So you can get a few points when you're pegging, is what that's called. And you move your little peg around. You're trying to get to 121. And then when you're done with the pegging round, you pick your cards back up. And one person will have 4 cards, and they count the number of points they have. And then the other person has their 4 cards. They count the number of points they have. And then there's still the crib, and that person gets to count the crib. And then you alternate and do it again. So it has what's fun about it is it just has these different facets. You're making a choice at the beginning, a strategic choice. Then you do this little pegging round, which is fairly quick. Then you do this counting round. So it just it's a fun, it's an enjoyable little thing. My son, who's now 12, we used to play every morning before he'd go to school. It just kind of passed the time. We could often finish a game in, 5 to 10 minutes once we got going. So I thought as a little primer before I do lots of counting. And my real goal in this project is to explain some principles of counting for probability and things like that, which are really of general interest in a lot of situations. So anyways, about the scoring. So there's several ways. There are 15s, and I am no expert on cribbage. I'm just going to give you enough that we can talk about the math I want to talk about in the next video. There's runs, there's pairs, and I forgot to mention, there's flushes, and there's a few specialties. So after you get as I said, someone thought they'd like to add a bunch of interesting things to this game to have lots of facets, which I think is kind of fun. So anyways, none of them are particularly challenging, but you each get 6 cards, you discard 2. So this is the 4 cards this person kept. And after you discard 2, then we flip a card, which for now we'll just say is the starter card. So at the end of your pegging round, then you count points. And so for this person right here, they have a flush, a 4-card flush. That's worth 4 points. It's the number of cards. So the flush is the number of cards in your flush. If there was also a heart, it would be a 5. That's a flush. And that's pretty much it. It has to be all 4 or 5. Okay, pairs, you get 2 points for each pair. Flush, you get it for the number of cards. And for the most part, the scoring principle is like number of cards. Pairs, you get 2 points. Flushes, you get points for each card. Runs, you get a point for each card in the run. So if it's a 3-card run, meaning for 3, 4, 5, that's worth 3 points. And lastly, 15s are always worth 2 points no matter how many cards are in there. But the interesting thing about 15s is you can do it in a number of different ways, and that leads to some hard challenges when it comes to the math in a moment. Like you could have a 3 and a 3 that makes 6, and a 4 and a 5, and that would be 15. It also would be a run It also would be what we'd call a double run. And there's a pair. So there's lots of ways you can get points. So when people are first playing, sometimes it's hard to keep track of how many points you have. People that are more hardcore will say things like, if you didn't say the points you had, then the other person could steal them. So anyways, over here what I see is a flush for 4. Usually you count your 15s first. So how many 15s are there? So the other principle is an ace is low. So an ace is like a 1. So basically the deck is 1 through 9. And then there are these cards that all count as 10. And that adds another little complication. So anyways, if we're looking for 15s, I see one. I see this jack, a 10, and a 5. So there's a 15 for 2. This is just I found this free worksheet online for math, actually. It's a great way for your kids to practice adding. So we have 2 points. And then we had are there any other 15s? Sometimes it's hard to see. It'd have to be an 8 and a 7. I don't see anything that adds up to 8. There's a 10 if you count these two, but that's a 4. So I don't see any runs. And so the only flush I see is 4 points. So this would be 6 points. Oh, it says it right there. And if anything in this video I get wrong, I'm just giving some principles. So this one right here, let's count our 15s first. So again, for people that have no cribbage, you can skip this part of the video. But just want to give a little primer. So we have 15 for 2. We have another 15 for 4 is how we would say it. So 15 for 2, then we would say 15 for 4 because you get 2 more points. Are there any other 15s? I don't see any other 5s. 5s become really important, as you can see. But is there a 7 and an 8? I see it. There's an 8 right here. And there's a 7 right here. So this is just an interesting way if you want to practice some adding with your kids in visualization. So I would say 15 for 6. So I see 3 15s, each worth 2 points. Did I miss any? It's easy to think I might have missed something. I hope I did. Then tell me in the comments in the video. Are there any runs? No. Are there any pairs? No. Is there a flush? Yes, and it's a flush for 5. So 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, and a flush of 5, which makes 11. 6 plus 5. Okay, now let's go a little faster. We're looking for 15s. I don't see any 15s there. I would need to have a 5 going with these. This does make a 10, but nothing makes a 15. So no 15s. Are there pairs? There is a pair for 2. Are there any runs? No. Is it a flush? No, it's only 2 points. Okay, let's go a little faster. So you sort of get better and better at seeing these things and making 10s. This is why this is good practice for kids. 10, 15 for 2. You can see that there. For the 8, I would need a 7. So 8 plus 4 plus 3. So I see 15-2, 15-4. And what else do I have? I have a run. That's a run of 3. So I have a run which makes 7 because we're adding 3. 15-2, 15-4, and a run makes 7. That's how we would say it. Let's play the game again. 15-2, 15-4. Let's see, the 7 needs an 8. I don't see it. 2, 15-2, 15-4. Okay, so the interesting things here is there's another one. As I told you, whoever made this game made one more rule, which is that if you have a jack of the same suit here, which we do, you get 1 point. I always think it's funny whenever they added this one. 1 for my knobs. I've looked that up before. I should have had that ready. Why we say that. So again, you would say 15-2, 15-4, and 1 for my knobs. I thought maybe it was nibs, so that's why it's 5. Here we go. A pair for 2, and there's nothing else. Here we go. We have knobs again because it's the jack of the suit. 15-2, 15-4, and it's these combinations that can make things big. A run of 3 for 7, and knobs for 8. and I don't play this enough. My aunt and uncle and cousin, I hope they will correct me and I'll make a better video in the future. What do we have here? We have a 15. We have an 8 and a 7. 15-2. It's tantalizing. It looks like there's more points there, but there's not. So that's the scoring. If you get 3 of a kind, just to mention a couple special cases, we say it's there's a pair, there's a pair, and there's a pair. So it's 3 pair. So 3 of a kind ends up being 3 pairs. So it's 6 points. So 6 points. So I didn't count them in order. 15-2 and 3 of a kind for 6 makes 8 points. That's that. 4 of a kind is 12 points, which makes a lot of sense to me, because if you have 4 cards that are all the same, then you could have this pair, or 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 this pair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pairs, each worth 2 points. So that's at least logical. A pair, 1 for my knobs. 15-2, 15-4, and a run hiding in there. 15-2, 15-4, and a run for 7. So that's the little primer. In the next video, I'll talk about some interesting stats, and then ultimately this project I worked on, which was how many points, if you were allowed to hold the entire deck in your hand, how many cribbage points would that be? My son and I started to count those, and we realized it was an enormous number, and there were some specific challenges. As I've returned to this problem now, I've made a few breakthroughs, and it reminded me of some math I studied long ago, and it leaves some questions to be answered, but mostly it's an exercise in good counting. I think I'll finish this video with an example, a video of me playing with my son. I sped it up real fast, and then I paused the ending. It's an actual game, and if you watch my primer to this series of videos, you'll see that we joked about how I always win, but he won this one, and he let me have it. So we'll finish with that, and I'll catch you on the next video where I'll talk about some cribbage stats.
There for 6 and a run for 9.
You win.
Ha!